Hi, my name is John Madden, and I am a probably 30-year sustaining member of a variety of NPR stations, National Public Radio. And I just heard a story on All Things Considered on National Public Radio about two liberal states, California and Oregon, sponsoring bills to expand the use of involuntary commitment to basically get homeless people off the streets. I have a personal stake in this issue for two reasons. One is I'm currently in Mexico, 2 weeks now in Mexico. I'm right now sitting in Victoria in my darkened camper van in Victoria, Mexico. And one of the reasons I'm in Mexico is because I love Latino people and love the culture of Mexico. But the other reason is that I can't afford to live in the U.S. Can't. I was, for my last 3 years in Asheville, North Carolina, living in a subsidized seniors building, which I could afford, but hated because it was downtown and it was not me at all. And I had struggled to patch together various roommate situations, but basically just, although I have a PhD and at the height of my career was making $100,000 a year consulting for AT&T, which at the time was the largest company in the world, in retirement, I just can't afford an apartment. And the two things link because in my early 40s, I had a huge life crisis, which got botched by the medical and psychiatry industries, and I call them industries purposely, by diagnosing me as having mental illness when I had a spiritual crisis. And the inflicting on me of a psychiatric label as a psychologist myself was so devastating to me personally, and then follow that with flooding me with drugs that made me basically comatose for 30 years, destroyed my capacity to do the professional work I had always done. So my last 30 years, I didn't make much money, and in retirement did not have much money. Yeah, so that's part of why I'm in Mexico now. Do not trust psychiatrists to make decisions about who's got mental illness. Do not. The only tool they have, and I was trained alongside psychiatrists and worked alongside psychiatrists for a long time. I know the psychiatry field. They know virtually nothing about trauma. All they know is diagnose and prescribe. That's their toolbox right there. Diagnose and prescribe. They don't understand what the diagnoses mean. They're just words that they put on behaviors. They don't understand what's going on there. But their theory is that it's biochemical. And so they fumble around with medications that were originally for epilepsy and all kinds of other things, trial and error, to see if it reduces the bad behaviors. None of those things heal people. No, they maybe take the edge off, soften the pain, but really blur out your capacity to function, to think clearly. For 30 years, I couldn't. And various psychiatrists acknowledge, yeah, it does do that to you, but you don't feel as much pain, right? No, you don't feel as much anything. So all of my commitment, I never had a commitment. All of my hospitalizations, 13 over about 15 years, were voluntary until the last one. And it happened when I was the most healthy. I had been officially discharged from psychiatry. It had been a year since I had taken any psychiatric medication. I was clean as a whistle, but sustained a medical injury. I had been punched. I was homeless, and then been punched by another homeless guy, and presented at the ER saying, I've been punched. The guy who saw it said, your nose is crooked. I think you've got a broken nose, and I think you've got a concussion. And I said to the ER admitting person, I'm kind of delirious. I'm noticing myself kind of delirious. And that hospital in Asheville, North Carolina, where I had been on psych wards, saw my history, and they put me in the psychiatric emergency holding area without telling me they had done that. And when I figured out where I was mad. And I got involuntarily committed because after 24 hours of waiting there, they wheeled the TV into my room with a psychiatrist in some other state who was an absolute cold fish, never smiled, never gave any kind of human compassion. And I finally said to him, you know, the first time you asked me if I had firearms, I said, no, I'm happy. I'm happy all the time. I love myself like never before. I love everybody else. Why would I have firearms? And I went on to say to him, you now have asked that same question in 2 or 3 other ways. What are you up to? I knew what he was up to. He was trying to come up with a reason to hospitalize me. So his answer to my question was, thank you for your time, and he hung up. And I looked at the nurse in the room with me and said, whoa, he's got the power, doesn't he? And an hour later, that same nurse came back to me and said, he wants you involuntarily committed for 72 hours for observation because you're a danger to yourself. And I said to her, you've seen me for 24 hours. Have you seen any sign of me being a danger to myself? She said, he didn't consult with us. He just wrote the order. Don't let those people make that kind of decision. No. Very dangerous. Okay. Thank you.